You're listening to Inside Lebo, a podcast giving you an inside look at Mount Lebanon, Pennsylvania, produced by Mount Lebanon's Public Information Office.
Hello and welcome to Inside Lebo. I'm your host, Assistant Municipal Manager and Municipal Planner, Ian McMeans.
And I'm Assistant Public Information Officer and Senior and Online Editor, Rachel Windsor.
Our guest today is Chief Jason Haberman from the Mount Lebanon Police Department.
And he is here with us to discuss Mount Lebanon's new PACE campaign, which some of you may have seen in the recent Mount Lebanon magazine. We had a feature written by Merle Jantz about it. And this is really aimed at keeping everyone in Mount Lebanon safe. So welcome, Chief. And why don't you start by telling us, one, what the acronym stands for and what the campaign is all about?
Perfect. Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about safety in the community any chance we get. So this is a really great opportunity for us to highlight this new initiative and expand upon it as best we can. So PACE was a acronym that we came up with through our traffic division and a number of others that really, as we looked at the problem of pedestrian automobile safety along with cyclists and others, holistically how to take an approach on making an awareness for having a safer community and having an understanding as to what other modalities of transportation are looking for and how we can all cooperate together within a community. So PACE stands for exactly what it is: pedestrians, automobiles, cyclists, and everyone. And as we have, again, different modalities of transportation through technology rise and various things, that's also included in our PACE campaign. And so what we want to do is really emphasize to the community a few things. We want to emphasize the overall safety of the community by really adjusting potentially their day or even their lifestyle potentially to allow for more time to leave to go to work, more time to leave to go to their kids' activities, and really all of the things that really back people up, that make people sort of not aware of their surroundings or put people in that position where they have to be in a hurry all the time. As we look at traffic safety and we take a holistic approach to it, what we find is there's a lot of factors of technology that help us, but there's also a lot of factors that also are starting to interfere with our ability to maintain safety. For example, as we look at pedestrians walking down the street, we have a lot of advancements in noise-canceling headphones and other things that maybe previously in previous years weren't such a factor. But what we're finding is with people who are even pedestrians walking and in crosswalks, the technology really allows for better hearing of their phone and music, but maybe not necessarily of the outside noise or other people approaching. So we really want to take all of these factors into account whenever we're trying to increase safety in the community, prevent accidents, keep people where they're supposed to be. When people are where they're supposed to be and cars are looking and they see people where they're supposed to be, they're much safer. And the same when pedestrians are walking and they see vehicles where they're supposed to be, and they're not cutting through lanes of traffic, or they're not switching lanes in an intersection, and they're maintaining safe traffic laws and safe driving, and they're not aggressively driving, we're able to minimize those incidents that occur. And so holistically, that's what this PACE approach is. We're sort of redefining the look-up part, where it's really more geared towards pedestrians. And PACE is a holistic approach to community safety as we move forward.
So you mentioned that this is kind of the growth of what used to be the Look Up Lebo campaign,
Sure.
That's sort of taking a holistic multimodal approach. And I think, kind of what we've seen in the post-pandemic world, we saw it when we did our comprehensive plan surveys. Everyone has kind of gotten out a lot more and enjoyed walking and recreating outside. That was one of the only things you could do for recreation during the pandemic was get out and go for walks. So I think you're right, we have seen a lot more people and just being a pedestrian-oriented community. So I think it does make a lot of sense to, structure the campaign around pedestrians first. And you mentioned also, the advancements in technology that I'm sure the little rectangles everyone has in their hands that they're staring at all the time doesn't help, whether it's for pedestrians, drivers, cyclists, anyone else. So was there anything else that prompted the institution of this campaign, or just kind of everything as a whole coming together at one time?
I think it was everything as a whole. We always look and evaluate traffic safety. We always look and evaluate any crashes we have, any incidents we have, any near incidents we have, and we track those fairly regularly. So what we look at annually is how we can be better and how we can improve it. And so we really worked with the manager and other entities, PIO, again, Public Works even, including everybody holistically and looking at it and saying, hey, what can we do to be better in terms of whether it's signage, whether it's anything else. And, the really great thing about our partners within the municipality is we all do work together whenever we have an approach, whenever we have an initiative such as this. If you look at our crashes over the last number of years, they've gone up, and then now if you look at this year prior to 2024, they consistently went up, our pedestrian crashes, and this year we really are on pace to have a lower than usual number of pedestrian crashes, and hopefully that stays to be the case.
We'll knock on the table.
Yeah, exactly,
that,
right.
Yeah.
So the idea is to maintain that, to really, again, emphasize habits, emphasize good habits, emphasize leaving 5 minutes early, emphasize not getting into road rage incidents. Road rages have really become a problem throughout, again, society in general in America, and specifically here. Everywhere has seen incidents of road rage that have really gone on, since I've been a police officer, to escalate to, again, deadly levels, unfortunately, in some communities. And it's really unfortunate, and it's really, sad in a lot of situations that we even have to get to that point. So what we're looking for is really a holistic approach where people can develop good habits, people can do what they can to minimize being in a hurry, being distracted. There's a lot of legislation right now out there. There's a proposed legislation in the State House right now that is looking to even restrict cell phone usage even further, that are not hands-free. So these are things that are coming out that we're seeing that really are going to have an effect as we move forward. So we're trying to inform everybody, educate everybody as to the dangers of really being in a hurry and not being aware and being distracted. And again, if you look at the modalities of transportation, whether we have cycle, bicycle, pedal cycles, we have motorized scooters, we have different other motorized devices, motorized skateboards nowadays. There's just different things that are really out there that have never been before. And so we really have to stay ahead of that and make sure that we're keeping everybody aware that we're sharing the road with a number of different people, getting places a number of different ways.
And even on top of that, we have state routes that come through town with the heavy truck traffic. We've got T routes with trolleys coming through town. We've got Port Authority buses. There's all different types of modes of transportation in addition to what you mentioned too. So that last part of it, the E for everyone, is essential too, because you don't want to be looking down at your phone when you're walking across the T tracks, even if the thing's beeping at you. Because like you said, with the noise canceling headphones, you might not hear the thing
100%.
Beeping.
Yeah.
Great. And, you mentioned a little bit earlier about the previous campaigns, Look Up Lebo specifically. So for residents that might have seen it on social media, in the magazine, on bumper stickers for a number of years now, what is the difference between the previous campaign and now?
Well, I think Look Up Lebo, like any campaign, it's not that the messaging wasn't important or doesn't stay the same in some way, but it's sort of an overall holistic messaging that includes other modalities. And so while Look Up Lebo really focused on pedestrian and making sure that automobiles were being aware of pedestrians, this is really making sure pedestrians are also aware of automobiles. While there are laws in place, and again, whether it's crosswalks that allow pedestrians to cross safely whenever the light allows them to do so, or whether it's other traffic laws that are in place to safely share the road with cyclists and motorcycles, we want to make sure that everybody does their part to stay safe. So really this emphasizes the everyone part, and again, like Assistant Manager McMean said, it really is that piece of it, where everybody does their part, everyone owns a piece of being safe. It's not about what's legal, it's about what's right, and it's about helping to keep the community safe. And so, we understand the legalities of sharing the road, but we also want to emphasize practices and safe practices of sharing the road. And so there's a difference. And so I think with PACE, what we're emphasizing is good practices, good habits. We want to make sure you're aware of what else is out there. Make sure that you're aware of where you're at. You're in a community that emphasizes shared modalities. You're in a community that really, again, is a walking community for our children. There's 5,000 kids that walk, and a number of other students that share our space during the day. And so we want to make sure that we're being aware of everybody here who's sharing our space and living and working in the community. So I think that's the difference. I think the part that we're really excited about with PACE is, again, emphasizing safe habits and emphasizing really good practices and making sure that everybody does their part to emphasize a safe environment to live and work.
And I had just started working here when Look Up Lebo kind of came into fruition, but my understanding of it, and I wasn't as involved as kind of what I know about this program, but my understanding of Look Up Lebo was it was very kind of heavily focused on the business district areas and kind of our high traffic areas too, whereas this campaign seems to take the holistic approach and also consider that we have a largely residential community. If you're driving down residential streets, be aware that kids are going to be playing in yards and there might be balls bouncing out into the streets, and don't fly down a residential street if you're driving, because there could be people that aren't looking entering into the street. There could be dogs that get loose, things like that you just want to be aware of your surroundings at all times.
100%, and I couldn't agree more, and I think that's an excellent assessment. Way to really describe it is it really touches every corner of Mount Lebanon, and we want to make sure that we can do our part to educate people and inform people where needed of issues or of areas that really they need to improve their habits and their safety practices. And then what we can do is really, hopefully, that by osmosis, it bleeds over to our neighboring communities, and all in all, we'll be safer for it.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you for your time so far. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back with more from Police Chief Jason Haberman on the PACE campaign. Welcome back to Inside Lebo. I'm Assistant Manager Ian McMeans, and with us today on our show is Police Chief Jason Haberman talking about the PACE campaign, which stands for Pedestrians, Automobiles, Cyclists, and Everyone. It's the new initiative focused on a holistic multimodal approach to safe mobility throughout the community, so that really we want everyone to be able to get from their origin to their destination in a safe manner. And as the chief was saying at the outset of the show, a lot of the campaign's just on information of being aware of your surroundings and everything else. And we touched briefly on the issue of being distracted when you're either operating a motor vehicle of some kind or just walking down the street staring at your phone or something like that. So can you talk about how just being distracted in general factors into awareness of your surroundings when you're moving throughout the community?
Yeah, well, the obvious, you mentioned earlier with cell phones and really the need to constantly be tethered to our cell phones has really changed the dynamic of how we operate, whether it's in a car or whether how we walk, or it really is one of the sort of latest pitfalls of technology. We've heard of a number of incidents where people have been charged criminally because they were distracted on their phones prior to incidents or during incidents that were easily preventable had they not been on their phones. And the same goes for even people who are pedestrians who are walking and on their phones, and again, whatever you're doing. So I think the important part with distractedness really is to focus on what you're doing when you're doing it. Be more present in the moment and understand that, get to your destination safely. And once you get there, you can do whatever it is you need to do once you get there. But let's focus on getting everybody to where they need to be. And once we can get everyone where they need to be safely, the idea will be they can go off and do wondrous things once they get to those places. But our real focus here is to make sure that everybody gets to where they need to be and they get there safely. And they emphasize good practices and good habits. And again, whether that's setting your alarm for 5 minutes early, and there's a number of different recommendations in the article. I'm not going to go through each and every one, but I can tell you that whether it's what you wear or how you drive, or whether it's, again, sort of those types of habits that you employ in your everyday life. The important thing is being mindful of those and doing what you can to sort of alter those to improve your ability to get to your destination safely.
Very well said. Yeah, and I think it mentioned in the article too, even just things as small as, where you cross the road, crossing at designated crosswalks, crossing at intersections, crossing at, parts of the road where drivers can see you. Don't cross on a curve if you're walking, to the park or something like that. So just, being not only aware of what you're doing in your surroundings, but also the potential implications of, okay, if I, cross the road here, are people coming around this bend going to be able to see me? Things like that.
Absolutely. And that really is a part of it, where it's sort of a symbiotic relationship between everybody. And again, people expect pedestrians to be certain places, and pedestrians expect vehicles to be certain places. And so there's a reason for that. That's why laws are set up to sort of guide that process and guide that shared ability of roads and sidewalks. And so we want to maintain that. And if we were to do that every time, we would minimize crashes and minimize incidents significantly if everybody was where they were supposed to be every time.
So the campaign has just begun. We obviously kicked it off in the magazine, and we're going to be starting to promote it from PIO. But from your stance, Chief, what are some of the features of the PACE campaign that residents can expect to be seeing rolling out in the near future?
Well, so what you'll find is, the obvious ability for us is to really educate people on traffic enforcement and traffic safety. So you'll see we employed the use recently of electronic speed signs, and these speed signs do a number of things for us. Not only do they let residents know how fast they're traveling in a certain area, in a roadway, they also collect data for us, and they really tell us a number of things. They tell us the average speed in that area. They tell us really what we are able to do from an enforcement standpoint. There are legal limitations in terms of local police do not use radar for speed enforcement. There have been a number of bills throughout the last 50 years to prevent that and allow that to occur, but none of those have been successful. So we use various speed timing devices that have margin for error, and so what we do is we will collect a lot of data on an area. We'll inform that area, whether through social media or physically with a presence, that those residents that we're there to inform them to be safe, to make sure that they're driving safely. And then we educate them on, again, the dangers of unsafe driving, whether it's through social media, through campaigns with the PIO office. And we're looking to do that, and that's what we'll be looking to do. We'll be looking to really put out various forms of targeted educating points and education through various pieces of information specific to an area. And like was mentioned earlier by Assistant Manager McMeans, it doesn't necessarily mean the business district. It also covers our suburban areas, our strictly suburban streets, so to speak, and we can educate people with respect to, again, sharing the area with playgrounds. And when you're in and around an area of playground, maybe people weren't aware there was a playground in the area. These are things that we can do to educate people so they understand that, and that'll help them to change their habits accordingly.
Great. Well, thank you for speaking with us today, Chief Haberman, and talking about how to keep our residents safe. We always appreciate the efforts that your department's doing in the area. And that will be it for this edition of Inside Lebo, produced by Carrie Munoz, with music by Drew Munoz and graphics by Chris Leeper.
We'll be back soon with another episode of Inside Lebo. Thanks again for listening, everyone.
Thanks for listening to Inside Lebo, produced by Mount Lebanon's Public Information Office. Learn more about all things Lebo at mountlebanon.org or by following our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages.